welcome to another exciting episode of the Issues on Voice of the People television, where we bring you the most important and pressing issues shaping our nation today. I am your host, Nenna Ndomdioto. Today on the issues, we're examining the complexities of Nigeria's polity and governance, from Tinubu seeking Senate to confirm Ibars and 64 other ambassadorial nominees, to Ribadu warning against attempts to spread terror, even as two groups reject calls for his resignation. Also, Miyetti discloses Fulani herders have faced genocide for 25 years. Join us as we break down the facts and provide context to help you stay informed. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll dig deeper into these topics. Don't go away. Glad to have you back. Let's dive straight into this discussion. President Bola Tinubu submitted a fresh list of non-career ambassadorial nominees to the Senate for confirmation. The nominees announced during Thursday's plenary include the immediate past sole administrator of Rivers State and former Chief of Naval Staff Ibok Ete Ekwe Ibas, former presidential aide Ita Inang, former Imo State First Lady Chioma Ohakim, and former Minister of Interior and former Chief of Army Staff Abdurrahman Dambazwa. The former list that was made public included prominent figures such as former INEC Chairman Mahmoud Yakubu, ex-Aviation Minister Femi Fani-Kayode, former Abia State Governor Okezie Ikpeazu, and former presidential aide Reno Omokri, among others. Both lists have been referred to the Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs, which is expected to conduct the screening process and report back to the upper chamber within 1 week. Meanwhile, the Senate has already cleared 3 nominees: Kayode Are of Ogun State, Aminu Dalhatu of Jigawa State, and Ayodele Oke of Oyo State, after their appearance before the Foreign Affairs Committee chaired by Senator Sani Bello. The committee noted that Oke successfully addressed all allegations previously raised against him. Are is a former Director General of the State Security Service, and Oke is a former DG of the National Intelligence Agency and ex-ambassador to the Commonwealth Secretariat, while Dalhatu previously served as Nigeria's ambassador to South Korea. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by 2 esteemed guests. Here in the studio, we have Mr. Dele Fanimo, who is a veteran journalist and a senior analyst. Glad to have you. See you, I'm smiling.
Good evening.
Glad to have you, sir.
It's my pleasure.
Yes, sir. And joining us virtually is Dr. Jude Obasami. He's a public affairs analyst and a political commentator. He's also the executive member of the Coalition of Civil Society Organizations. Glad to have you join us, Dr. Jude. Okay, you get to join us during the show. Let's start first with you. When you saw the new inclusion to the list, what was your first reaction?
Well, it was a mixed bag. And I think the current list is an improvement on the previous list.
Okay.
Because where you have Dambazao is a PhD holder. He was former Chief of Army Staff, and he had a distinguished career in the Nigerian Army. And then you have, in the previous list too, you had OK, former DG of NIA, Nigeria Intelligence Agency, like just having somebody who is at top of CIA in America, you know. And you have somebody like Are, former DG of DSS. So I believe that it's a choice pick. That is not to say that some names propped up that it looks as if it's a kind of compensation for what they have done in the past. For instance, Abbas was chief of naval staff and immediate sole administrator of River State, which can be taken as if it's a compensation for a job well done in River State for the 6 months that he held sway, even when there have been called for him to account for his spendings while he was the sole administrator of that state. So by and large, usually you have non-career diplomats and you also have career diplomats. But I think what would either come as a surprise or otherwise is their country of destination when they begin to post them outside the country. Because there are some countries that are very, very strategic, that somebody who is not in any way in the know of diplomatic nuances, exposure and all that, may find it a little bit difficult to cope with the demand of job in some of those strategic countries. So for me, it's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag.
Okay, I was actually going to ask you if the appointments were really driven by diplomatic needs or more about political compensation, which you have spoken a bit about that. I don't know if you still want to talk more about it.
We have I think before it was pruned down, we used to have about 193 embassies and what is it now? They call it embassies and
envoys.
No.
Okay.
Envoys are the people that
are there. Yes.
Yes.
Foreign missions. No.
There are some. I mean, I'll remember in the course of this intervention. But you see, there are some states. I mean, there are some countries that you can appoint an ambassador to oversee 2-3 contiguous countries. It is done. So how the Foreign Affairs Ministry, in conjunction with the presidency, want to post these newly appointed envoys to various countries would also determine the level of scrutiny, the level of putting the right peg in the right hole in the days. I'm sure by next weekend we would have an idea of where each of these nominees would be posted, and then we can now subject it to defeat if they are strong enough or not. I recall when Buhari was the president of the country, he posted one very old man to United States of America. The man was walking on crutches, and it became a butt of joke by this Trump. Trump was in government then, his first term. But is this all Nigeria can offer, you know? So I want to believe that the current administration will take a cue from that and know exactly where to assign some of these envoys.
You know, before this list, this new list came out, you know, it's been said that when the first list came out to the public, you know, some persons really called for the removal of some names. But we get to still see that these names, looks like the president hasn't actually listened to the people. And we still see names like Reno Omokri and Femi Kayode and all of that. What do you think about people like that? Does people like that who have controversial or who have controversial issues, sort of?
You see, against people's perception, government is not run that way. For me, a Fani Kayode will be a very good representative of this country.
Okay, why do you say so?
And I'll tell you why. Fani Kayode, despite all the negative perception people have about him, is a very brilliant person. You can't take that away from him. And he has seen the other side of the divide. He's schooled in the UK. He understands the cultures, he understands the nuances, the tradition, and he could find his way around that state. So I won't be surprised if he's taken to UK. You know. Now, Omokri is somebody I've come to see as somebody who can sell coal in Newcastle or snow to the Eskimos. And the job of an envoy include and not limited to business relationship, bilateral relations, and economic influence that can draw foreign direct investment and all that. I think those guys are brilliant enough to handle such portfolio. So, yes, here we may say, they are sycophantic, they are doing this, they are doing that. But I still feel that those guys are brilliant. And so I don't see any reason why they cannot be envoyed.
Some persons would actually really argue with your statement, because it looks like you're seeing the bright side of things when many Nigerians are actually not even seeing it the way you're seeing it. Because of course we saw how Fani Kayode's temperament can actually run, actually with the video that was, that was brought forward, that was, dug out from the past. And we, of course, we know, everybody knows who no more craze and all of that. But still on that same list, we've seen people like Okezue Ikpeazu, who many would say hasn't even done anything. Who didn't do anything as a governor when he was a governor. What does he, for someone like that, does he really, what does he have to offer as an ambassador? And that would also lead me, while you answer that would also lead me to one of the things you said when you were responding to your first question. You pointed out some of their backgrounds and some of their portfolios. What makes a good ambassador? Is it more about their portfolio and how good their background is, or about integrity? What makes a good ambassador? What does Nigeria need in our ambassadors?
You see, ambassadors are representatives of their country. And their assignment is to project their country as good enough for interactions with other countries where they are assigned, is to promote trade and investment. Sometimes it could also promote exchange of security strategies and ideas, and so many other things. So, regardless of whatever your perception, you can say that the person didn't do anything, but I tell you, one thing I've learned about governance is that those who don't do anything, they have media exposures than those who do a bit. And so, I know, for instance, look at Makinde in your state. Makinde is not somebody that wants to showcase everything he does in the media. I can't remember him commissioning roads with fanfare, with media presence and all that. But he keeps building roads. He keeps building infrastructure. If not for the crisis that emanated between those displaced as a result of this circular road that is constructing, it's a giant stride, a big project. Nobody would have heard about it. They would just construct and live for the use of the people. So somebody who is far-flung from your state would assume that the man is not doing anything, because whereas somebody will make 4 kilometers road and make a show of it as if he has constructed 400-kilometer road, you know. And we know as media people how we magnify such things so that people that are far away from the state would assume that the man has done something fantastic. So for me, it is not, except you have concrete evidence to show that man, and there's no way somebody will sit in a place for 4 years and he wouldn't have done something. It may not be enough. You understand? So I would say that, you see, you want to say that I am a bit of an optimist than a pessimist. The point is, I don't know some of these people, but I would rather criticize when it is necessary, not that I will criticize for the sake of criticizing, so that people can applaud me for abusing or criticizing people. I would rather criticize where it is necessary. There are times, this morning, I strongly criticized the federal government for not doing certain things they ought to have done, leaving the space for the terrorists, the bandits and kidnappers, until America had to breathe down their necks for them to act on what they ought to have acted before the intervention of American president who read the Riot Act, so to say. So, for me, these people, some of them have good track record. For somebody to be a DG of NIA, you don't know what that means? Hey, for somebody to be DG of DSS, you should know what that means. And for somebody to rise to the position of Chief of Army Staff, not just that, he is a PhD holder, a doctorate degree holder. You can't push that kind of person aside. He rose to the pinnacle of his career as a Chief of Army Staff. Ibas also rose to the pinnacle of his career as Chief of Naval Staff, a 3-star general. You can't say those ones are not qualified to be. Most of these people had gone on several courses overseas where they had interactions. Just like you recall that when the Pope was to be elected, nobody knew his background until when he was elected. And to imagine that that Pope was once in Nigeria on missionary mission. You know, otherwise, if there was no documentation, nobody would know. But now, you want to tell me that the day he spoke about Nigeria and what Nigeria is up to on this banditry and the terrorism and all that, you know that it's somebody that understands the terrain of Nigeria. So it could be one of the yardsticks for appointing some of these people to those positions. But whatever they would do, how they are going to perform in this assignment is just a matter of time. We will all see. We will be able to say, no, this man has not done well. This one has done well. And don't forget that they are going to also make sure that they support the foreign policy of the country wherever they are. So let's see how far they can go.
Okay, well, let's see how far they would go. Well, in the list, we have 34 career ambassadors and, of course, 31 non-career ambassadors. Of course, when you add the trio that have been confirmed, you would say we have like 37 career ambassadors. We have, 34 career ambassadors. They're like 34 each, actually. So what's the place of career ambassadors and what's the place of non-career ambassadors?
You see, the advantage a career officer would have is the fact that he is a top-notch trained diplomat. Yeah. But these ones that are going, they would have to undergo some crash programs to tell them what to do, what not to do, what would expose Nigeria to ridicule that they must not touch and all that. But the career officer knows what to do at any point in time. Because for you to have risen through the ranks to become a career diplomat of ambassadorial level, you know what is ingrained in you what you have that you can push out. So that's what makes the difference.
Okay, but with this, shouldn't the career ambassadors be more than the non-career ambassadors? Again, looking at Joe Keshi, I think said sometime last week when the first list came out that some of this foreign diplomats or some of those in the foreign mission, foreign ministry rather, are not very happy that they've been kind of sidelined. So do you think that this would cause a lot, given that, looking at the list, there are 34. If these career ambassadors are, would I say, because they know their onions more, they know what they should do, shouldn't they be more than, the non-career ambassadors?
You see, a career ambassador will be circumspect, but a non-career officer ambassador will be more flamboyant. And so, I'm sure that the foreign ministry, especially the minister, will know, because he's going to be involved in the postings. He will know those that require the flamboyance of a politician or somebody with other career, manning that chancery, that ambassadorial seat, and as well as the ones that are career officers, where they need their temperament, they need their expertise to handle delicate issues. For instance, I would expect the federal government to post somebody who's not a career officer to a place like the US, because you need tact, you need experience, you need emotional intelligence for you to handle somebody like Trump as an ambassador, Nigerian ambassador to the United States. So, and some other countries like that. So, for me, I would be more at home discussing this when the postings are out.
Okay. Let's move on to our next issue tonight. National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu has warned that any individual or group who attempts to spread terror or destabilize communities will face decisive action, underscoring the government's commitment to protecting citizens and restoring peace. Speaking during a forum organized by the National Peace Committee, the NSA stated the Nigerian state remains fully committed to law, order, and the protection of citizens. Meanwhile, two civil society groups, the Oodua People's Network and the Niger Delta Stakeholders Forum, have criticized the call for the removal of Nuhu Ribadu as the National Security Advisor. The call was made by a senator who argued that the post should be held by a retired military officer. The unions, however, insisted that the NSA's post should not be reserved only for ex-soldiers, and defended Ribadu's competence in intelligence, counterterrorism, and inter-agency coordination. In a related development, a prominent voice from the Southeast, Joseph Ono, has called on the Minister of State for Defense, Bello Mohammed Matawale, to step down. Ono cited a resurfaced 2021 video in which Matawale, then Governor of Zamfara State, commented on approaches to banditry and violence in the Northeast. According to Ono, such past remarks raise serious questions about the minister's neutrality and suitability for a high-level defense role. Ono argued that the matter should be reviewed to preserve public confidence in Nigeria's security leadership. So let's look at the NSA's warning. Would you say that this warning is a sign of, as a sign of improved intelligence gathering, or simply just a reactive public message that he's just saying just because, okay, he found himself, because it was during a forum organized by the National Peace Committee. So it's just a message just trying to just put out there, or does this signal an improved intelligence gathering?
You see, anything done by any of these top hierarchy in the security architecture of this country now, I consider it as belated. Must they wait for America to breathe down the neck of this country before they start showing that tough posture against bandits, terrorists, and kidnappers. For me, I was thinking that Ribadu would be the next person in line to be removed from office. Because at some point, I felt that it was a wrong choice to have taken Ribadu to that position. One, for the Office of National Security Advisor, it's a very sensitive office where you're supposed to have all the security apparatus, both military, paramilitary, architecture. It's supposed to be the hub around which all the security agencies revolve. And maybe because of his low level of exposure, he retired as, I think, Deputy Commissioner of Police when he left EFCC. He was a policeman. And I have a feeling that he's not enjoying good rapport with the military. Because how can I am a product of the barracks. From years back, decades back, there have not been love. I mean, there have been love lost between the military and the police. As a matter of fact, as Deputy Commissioner of Police, the soldier will regard him as equivalent to Lieutenant Colonel. Now imagine a Lieutenant Colonel presiding over a 4-star general. That is the CDS. Then the service chiefs, 3-star generals. The GOCs, 2-star generals. And below the 2-star general, you have 1-star general, brigadier, air commodore, and navy commodore. And below that is you have the navy captain, group captain in the Air Force, and a colonel before you come to the level at which he retired. And he was trained for internal security. He's not trained to wage war. So how is he going to understand military tactics when they are discussing issues of security? In fact, it would have been better if I have my way. I would have suggested to the presidency to move Ribadu to defense.
And then the defense.
And then that man, Musa, be the national security advisor. Because if you check, most of these national security advisors are soldiers. You know, Dasiki was a military man. And some other national security advisors. So, and he saw trances in the last 2 years. You recall that it was once quoted as saying that most of the weapons in the hands of terrorists are from Nigerian army. At some other time, he said there are moves, there are informants in the armed forces. For God's sake. There are certain things you don't say when you are in that office. You are supposed to work on the ground and make your work be effective so that people can see the result. It's not an office for grandstanding. It's not an office where you show off your proficiency in English language, English grammar. But we have found ourselves in this. And let me tell you, ingrained in the psyche of those service chiefs is that superiority complex over Ribadu. You know, when they are sitting in council and they are discussing, the first thing that comes to their mind is, if not for politics? How can a deputy commissioner of police be seated in a place where I, the CDS, a four-star general, will sit? Those are the things that will be running in their minds. So they will just sit. Some of them may not even listen to what he's saying. And it's not a good thing for us. So for me, whatever bravado Ribadu is showing now is late, is belated. In the law court, they call it afterthought. Where was he? He's been in the saddle for 2 years or more. Did he forget to say this all those periods? No. Now that there's a reawakening, you are just mouthing it. I mean, come on.
Okay, you know, I actually heard someone say recently that the NSA shouldn't be as powerful as Nigerian or our government has made it to be. That in actual sense, the Ministry of Defense should actually be higher than the NSA. The NSA should just be like an advisor. Do you think, because from what you're saying, the NSA, and from what we are seeing actually, the NSA is higher than the Minister of Defense?
Let me tell you, Office of the National Security Advisor is supposed to be very, very strong and powerful.
Okay.
As powerful as the Office of the Director of CIA. As powerful as taking decisions that borders of national security and taking decisive decisions without recourse to any other person apart from the commander-in-chief. But you know one thing about some of these issues, if you put a small mind in a big office, that office will shrink to its size. But if you put a man with ideas, intelligent big boy, in a small office, the office will be forced to expand to the size of that person. And that is what we are witnessing here. Before now, whoever thought of saying Office of National Security Advisor should be under Ministry of Defense? The Minister of Defense is just to coordinate spendings, allocation of resources. The Minister of Defense cannot sit where a soldier is to be disciplined. Okay. The Minister of Defense would only take approval to the president. We want to buy this, we want to buy that. And when it is approved, it pushes back to the agency, either Nigerian Army, Air Force, or Navy. So, but the National Security Advisor works in close relationship with the service chiefs, the CDS, and other paramilitary agencies to ensure that he is supposed to be the coordinating minister for all those agencies. So that's the difference. But from day one, I knew Ribadu may not likely succeed in that assignment.
And do you see him being removed at any point?
I'm telling you, except maybe for political reasons. Maybe he has some political jokers in his hand that could help the current government to win in the next election. If he has that, they would defy every call to remove him and let him run through the administration. But for me, I think it's also one of the legs that should be removed if we must stand tall in Nigeria.
Talking about removal, we'll still get to Matawale's call for Matawale's resignation. But before we do that, let's go to some of the things that the NSC had actually said. One of the things they said is that the only country in that Nigeria is the only country in the Sahel region with a functioning democracy despite our security, despite the security challenges that we're being confronted with. What's your reaction to this statement? What do you make of this statement?
Well, when it comes to stability, I don't want to believe that we are the most stable. Chad has, Niger has maintained some level of stability despite the intervention of the military. Most of the active terrorists and bandits in Nigeria are nationals of Niger. They were chased out of Niger. So Niger has relative peace. Nobody is rampaging. Nobody is holding people hostage. Nobody is kidnapping in Niger, their home country. Yet they became emperors here in a foreign land. So how can you now say that Nigeria is more stable? If you're talking about economy, Nigeria's economy is larger because of the resources embedded in Nigeria, and as a matter of fact, because of the population of Nigeria. But aside from that, I don't think that toga of Nigeria being more stable than all the West African countries or the Sahel, I don't want to believe it is true.
Okay. Another thing that he actually said is that he said national security does not begin at the federal level. According to him, he said that most of our problems are rooted in local dynamics. And of course, it's saying that there's a need for like collaboration between communities, religious leaders. Aside from him, many others have actually called for this. And we even heard yesterday during the screening of the XCDS, one of the things they said was, talked about how to, for lack of a better, just not paraphrasing actually, a way to ensure that these people, communities, collaboration between, amongst these people. What do you make of this? Is that what we need? How big?
You see, before you can tell me to go to war, you arm me, you give me gun, you give me bullets. Is that not so? You can't tell me to go to Sambisa now and give me catapult. What is my business there other than to go and commit suicide? The way Nigeria is structured, the local government, there was a time in this country that local government had their own police. There was state police. But through unity system that was espoused by Agoyin Ironsi after the 1960s coup, he brought us back to unitary system of government for whatever reasons. Now, today, if a governor of the state cannot call a commissioner of police to direct him that there is crisis in Oshodi, without the commissioner of police telling him that, sir, I cannot take orders from you, I'm sorry, sir, I have to go to Abuja to take orders. You remember this? There was this attack on a community in Benue State last year. The thing got to the state governor. No, I think it was even when Autumn was there.
Okay.
Before this current governor.
Earlier.
They called the commissioner of police. The commissioner of police said he has to take order from Abuja. And for 4 hours, there was no order from Abuja. And those bandits, those terrorists, unleashed mayhem. And today, nobody has been able to query it. So when you have such line of reporting, how can you expect a local government chairman to take security as priority in his local government? Up till now, we have not allowed financial autonomy in the local governments. Money meant for local government are taken by state governors.
Then given to,
and they just give them peanuts. So where is the funding? Where is the power Where is the constitutional power for him to arrange even local vigilante and arm them to the extent that they can repel any marauder in that local government? Where is it? So how can you now be saying the security will start from local government to state, and when up till now, until recently, the Northerners were opposed to state police. But now, when they now saw the need for it, started charging state police. Now, if there is state police, the commissioner of police is likely to come from that state. The DPOs are likely to come from that state. And so, if something is happening in Oshodi, for instance, the man knows the bad boys in Oshodi. He knows where they reside. And if the attackers are not from Oshodi, he knows the bad boys in Oshodi that will call and say, these people are coming, they are fighting and they are looting. Call them to order because I'm coming to pick you if you don't call them to order. Those ones will want to protect their territory and they will repel. But imagine somebody posted from Adamawa to Oshodi, Makinde police station there. It will take him minimum of 6 months to acquaint himself with the terrain, not to talk of those bad boys. How does he identify them? One, he doesn't speak their language. He doesn't know the terrain. Now, do you know how many days it will cost him to visit important people in Oshodi solo? But somebody who grew up in Oshodi solo, he doesn't need to visit anybody. In fact, they know his father. He knows the man that first built his house on a particular street. And he knows the bad boys around that area. So that's why sometimes when the police ask you, if you are attacked, and the police ask you, what type of gun did you notice in the hands of these marauders? If you tell them, and then they will ask, the gunshots you heard, can you just describe how it sounded? They are getting to somewhere. Because they know the bad boys that have AK-47. They know the ones that operate with guns, Dane guns. They know the ones that operate with cut-to-size double barrel. So the moment you say, okay, don't worry, we'll start investigation. The moment you leave that station, they'll just say, Kabiru. So you actually went to that place to operate. Come to the station now. And if you have not sold those things you took, bring them to the station. If you don't want trouble for yourself, Kabiru will bring it because he knows they know him. You understand? Yeah. So, that is why whatever he's saying is just for the optics. It's just rhetorics. Yeah. There is nothing to back it. There is nothing to concretize it, to make it actionable. So, why does he need to dissipate his energy talking to, are we all fools? We know what operates.
Okay, let's quickly move to Matawale. A call has been made that he should resign. And it's not just about Joseph Ono. Other persons have actually said, especially after the video resurfaced, how can someone be saying that banditry, all bandits are not criminals? That, that is where they get them upset. That, they now... It's just
like you are pampering a cub lion. When the lion gets grown up, you are likely to be the first victim. You see, some of these people are flippant. You look at the office they carry, and so you assume that they should be able to live up to that office. But the reverse is the case. And the beauty of all this is internet never forgets. Look at the way they were trolling Omokri. Look at the way they trolled Boala. Look at the way they trolled Fadekayode and some other people. Because those things were done in the past, even when they didn't see to the future that they may find themselves on the other side of the divide. Now, how can Matawale has bags. He was accused of settling bandits, and he has not come clean. He was accused of backing terrorists. He has yet to. In fact, the incumbent governor of Zamfara accused him, and he has not come clean. So the plausible, and what is he doing there? He doesn't have any exposure to holding that particular office. So there are some strategic offices that specialized people must handle. It's just like you are putting a doctor in Ministry of Justice as Attorney General of the Federation. The fresh graduate, law graduate, knows better than him. There are some legal jargons that you will see, you will read and read and read and read and read, you will never understand. So these are issues. I think going forward, appointment to strategic positions should be done in concert with the high level of professionalism that office demands. There are some offices that you can throw anybody to, because they say that management is almost same everywhere. But under this management, I can't, for instance, if they appoint me as Minister of Health today, what do I know? If they bring any fight to me, once I begin to see that one letter that is almost a sentence, that I don't even know the meaning, it's either I'll call a doctor to come and interpret, or I'll just sign and say, just let them go with their wahala. And that's not good for administration. And that is what is happening in the case of Matawale. Okay,
so let's look at the leaders of Miyetti Allah have said that Fulani pastoralists across Nigeria, the Fulani headers, they've endured what they call, according to them, a 25-year campaign of targeted killings. Actually said that if anybody wants to talk about genocide, they should be the one talking about genocide. In just 1 minute, because we're almost out of time, what do you make of this?
It's really laughable. It's really laughable. The number of headers that have suffered the fate of being attacked and killed is not comparable with the number of other Nigerians that have been killed, either as Muslims or Christians, by these herders. What prompted them to resort to the use of assault rifle? We have seen videos of these herders going into farmland, uprooting cassava and feeding their cattle. And the owner of that farm dare not show up. If it's a woman, they will rape her before killing her. If it's a man, they will kill him. And what is genocide? Maybe they don't. Whoever said that, made that statement, didn't understand what genocide is all about. So I think I will sympathize with that person that made that call than castigate him for making such a call.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for your intelligent analysis. That's all for today's episode of The Issues. We explore the challenges facing Nigeria's polity and, of course, governance. Thank you for being a part of this show. Don't forget to tune in next time for more in-depth analysis and discussion. Follow us on social media to stay up to date on the latest news and insights. Until next time, stay informed. I am Nnenna Ndomdioto. This has been The Issues on Voice of the People Television, where the future faces forward. Please don't forget to stay tuned for Hashtag with Vivian and Nikechukwu by 8 p.m. Don't go away.
VOP TV. Now, you have more than a voice.
Do you want your voice